Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for this installment of the Robbins Executive Speaker Series. My name is Mickey Quinones. I'm the Dean of the Robbins School. And tonight we have the pleasure of spending an hour with Shep and Ian Murray, co-founders of Vineyard Vines. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen so you can see us all. So the way we're running this is as a webinar. Feel free as we have our conversation to add your questions to the Q&A, and we'll try to address them as we go along. But as you know, Vineyard Vines has become an iconic brand. The recognizable smiling whale is everywhere. Stickers can be found in our students' laptops, people's cars, and everywhere else. But starting from quitting their jobs in New York to selling neckties out of the Jeeps and to creating a brand that's iconic and distributed throughout the country and the world, as we now have a lot of e-commerce. Shep and Ian really took a big plunge into the space, and we're going to learn a lot about how that happened and how they have managed to navigate these storms of COVID, how the business adapted early on, and now that we've are into our 8th, 9th month into this crisis, how the business is faring and what they see ahead for their own business and retail in general. So again, we're excited to see you here. Welcome, Shep and Ian. How are you guys doing?
Great, thanks for having us.
Thanks, Mickey.
All right, and I should say, just for those of you who are joining us, we just had a roundtable discussion with about 30 students for an hour. So very generous of Shep and Ian to do that. We had some great discussion about, again, their start and their business. And they asked a really interesting question of our students of what kind of entrepreneurial and fun things they started during the initial set of lockdowns and during COVID in general. We had heard a lot of really, really cool things that our students had done, and maybe we'll hit some of those later on. All right. First of all, just for fun, we're going to do a couple of rapid fire questions. So just to get to know y'all a little bit. All right. What's your opinion? My kids really love the breakfast for dinner thing. And what is it? What about you all? Shep, what's yay or nay?
I love it.
Yeah. Ian?
My kids like breakfast for lunch.
Ah, that's a new one. I am not a breakfast for dinner person. I would like my breakfast for breakfast. So, all right. Any hobbies you've picked up during the pandemic? Ian, how about you?
I got a puppy, so dog training.
Ah, Shep?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time. We have 3 dogs, and yeah, I think a lot of time fishing and playing tennis and spending time around the house, and kind of being with the family 24/7.
Yeah, it's interesting where that becomes now the new thing, which is great. We've really, that's been one of the small blessings of this. All right, if you weren't doing your current job, what would you be doing? Shep?
I would be going to University of Richmond. I mean, after hearing what those kids were, all their ideas and all the things that they've turned into fruition, is pretty amazing. It feels good. But I think at the end of the day, though, in all seriousness, I think Ian and I love what we do. We love working with the people we work with, and we love trying to please our customers. And that's the honest truth. I don't think there's anything else that we would want to be doing.
Excellent. Ian, how about you?
I enjoy building Vineyard Vines and working with a great team for sure. And if for some reason I wasn't doing that, I'd want to be doing something very similar to that. And, spending more time with my family and the hobbies that as you get older, you sometimes have less time to do in the middle of your life.
So you wouldn't be in a musician in a band, as you see behind you there?
If I had any energy left after 8 o'clock at night, I'd be playing more guitar. And if I could get up earlier, I'd go, learn how to fly an airplane again. But
nice. All right. Have you binge watched anything during the pandemic?
I've watched almost everything. And we're watching Emily in Paris right now. I should probably be ashamed to say that, but it's actually pretty funny. My wife's watching it.
Excellent. Shep? No binge watching?
What have I been watching? I watch CNBC all day long, and then I watch whatever my wife is watching. I usually fall asleep.
Fair enough. All right. Yeah, we've all, my kids love when I say I'm binge watching something, they think, you don't know what binge watching is. You're supposed to watch something for days and days and days. So that's a term that I use very loosely. All right. Last question before we get on to the program. Favorite Vineyard Vines item? I don't know. Maybe it's this tie. I love this Vineyard Vines tie. What's your favorite item?
Ian, what's your favorite? Go ahead.
I used to say whichever one we're going to sell next, but no, I honestly, I love all of our stuff. And, recent years sort of ebbed and flowed. Like I love all the performance stuff that we're wearing because it's super comfortable and, you just feel great in it. But particularly during COVID, where I'm home a lot more, I found myself wearing more cotton than I used to in the past.
Nice. Shep, how about you?
I mean, I think the reason why we started Vineyard Vines was to make stuff that we loved. And we thought that if we were passionate about it, other people would be too. To Ian's point, I really like a lot of the performance stuff. I wear a blue and white striped shirt every single day and a pair of chino shorts. Like they're called performance breakers. And they kind of are great for anything you want to do. You can actually look okay and then do all of the things that you want to do, whether it's go out of the boat or the beach or whatever.
What gave you the confidence? We heard a lot of kind of aspirations and dreams that our students have of things they wanted to start, but obviously there's a little bit of risk, or quite a bit of risk, of quitting your full-time job. What gave you the confidence that you could do that?
I mean, I don't know that we had the confidence that we could do it, but I think that we didn't have a lot to lose. We had jobs that weren't fulfilling, and we give a talk called Breaking the Rules Without Even Knowing Them. And that's essentially what we did, because we didn't know what was expected of us if you're going to start a clothing business or a brand. We just sort of invented the rules as we went, and we did things that made sense really to any entrepreneur. And as we started to build out our products and start working with different partners and vendors and build relationships, it's very much the same mindset we have today, and it's shared by other entrepreneurs. Whereas we were doing things and it felt right, we kept leaning into that even more. We started doing things that our customers weren't reacting to, or we personally didn't feel a connection to. We'd back off it, and it's kind of amazing where that will lead as you lean into the things that you love and that fill a need.
Okay, so there are two things that are iconic about the brand. One is the whale behind you there, Shep. So we can talk about the roots of the whale, and then the everyday should feel this good mantra. So let's hit on those two so our audience can learn a little bit more about what the brand stands for and what the kind of brand personality is about.
So I think the whale started because we needed a logo for our polo shirt. And our dad was a wood carver. And so at our home in Connecticut, we had his whale that hung above our door. And I have some in here. But so that's, because Martha's Vineyard was a whaling colony. And so it just made sense. In terms of every day should feel this good. It felt like it was an inclusive, welcoming message where everybody could have their good day. And so if we could if we could dress people for their everyday should feel this good moments, regardless of what they were, then we thought that was, kind of selling positivity and happiness and inclusivity feels good to everybody. And that's what we tried to do. And I'll just add one more thing is we have 3 corporate goals at Vineyard Vines. And our number 1 is to make Vineyard Vines a great place to work. So we try and do everything we can do to make our team happy and comfortable and safe. And that's been more important during these COVID times. Number 2, create an exceptional experience for our customer. And then 3 is drive profitable sales growth. But we think that treating our team the best we can will create an amazing customer experience, and in turn will drive profitable sales growth. And I think during COVID right now, having that, taking care of our team and our customers has been our number 1 and 2 priority. And we've kind of let the third one, we're doing the best we can to be the best people we can. And we've put our brand and personal values over everything else to make sure that everyone is safe.
It's interesting. I don't know if you noticed, but one of our students earlier on astutely pointed out that perhaps what was going on in the jobs that you found unfulfilling was that those companies had that backwards. that they started with profitability and worked their way down and really put people last. And that might have been what you were feeling. So take me back to the necktie. So the way I read it, I remember it from our conversation, $8,000, maxed out your credit cards, and you created, first of all, how did you design those neckties? Were you designers? Did you hire a designer? And then how many did you create? How many did you manufacture? And how did you sell them, that first sale? And how did you go about starting the whole thing?
You know, I think, no, we weren't designers by any mean. But, you know, we had an idea of what we wanted the end product to look like. And so buying, you know, taking some of the ties that we had and looking at what the marketplace was and buying some of them, cutting them apart and starting to figure out where we could source the different components. And back then it was looking through the yellow pages, or, you know, the equivalent of just searching Google for clothing manufacturers in New York City. And then in terms of the design and the layout, we were resourceful. You know, we taught ourselves how to use Photoshop and Illustrator. We still had our jobs in New York City at firms that had resources. So for a couple of pizzas and a couple 6-packs of beer, we'd get some of these guys and girls to stay late and help us lay out our ideas. And slowly over time, we began to hire them as freelancers, and they taught us quite a bit. And, you know, particularly like during COVID, I know that, you know, a lot of people have taught themselves new skills. And when you're starting a business, you have a lot of sort of downtime when it's really in that early infancy. So Shep and I spent a lot of time learning how to use different programs at the time that were really relevant to our business. And it made a big impact.
And then you took those ties. How many did you manufacture in the first batch?
About 800.
And you took them to stores in Martha's Vineyard, and nobody wanted to carry them. So how did you convince them to do that?
Well, we basically said to them that it wasn't that they were buying the ties from us. It was that they were giving a couple of young guys an opportunity to prove themselves and to build a business. And so we really sold our story just as much as we sold the product. We also convinced them that there was a customer who wanted a more premium tie than what the stores on the islands were offering at the time. It was very old school New England prep, sort of polyester rep stripe ties. And that wasn't what people were wearing on the floor of Wall Street or in great advertising firms in Manhattan. And so we saw this need that that maybe they didn't, or nobody else saw. And we also told them, listen, whether you bring them inside or not, they're going to be on your doorstep tomorrow morning. So you could pay, if they sell, great, pay them for us. And if they don't, you know, we'll be there to take them back from you.
How did you test the transportability of the brand beyond Martha's Vineyard and some of the other resort kind of coastal towns? And how did you know it was going to work?
So we made the first batch of ties. 2 of them were island specific, and then the other 2 were fishing ties. And what happened was we started on the Vineyard, and then Nantucket bought the bluefish tie, and it did really, really well. So we started making the street signs of Nantucket and the shape of the island. And then what happened is all of the people that visited these islands during the summer wanted them to be in their local stores in their hometowns. And so that's how it started to branch off the islands.
Interesting. You know,
and we started making like Christmas ties and like martini and cigars and sailing. And it was just fun.
You know, maybe later on we can have it strikes me, this is just something I thought of, that what you were trying to do is take the vibe and the experience of being in the Vineyard to Wall Street so people could remember what it's like. But it strikes me now during COVID, people are able to work remotely. So in some ways they can probably now work from Martha's Vineyard and some of these other places. I was just reading how the Hamptons real estate market is going crazy because of people leaving New York. Anyway, let's talk about COVID. And last time we spoke this summer. It was pretty new, right? So to walk us through the first set of actions that you took as we went on a national kind of lockdown, if you will. It's about as close as we came to a national lockdown. What were the immediate kind of triage things that you had to do?
I think the first thing that we focused on was our team's safety and our customer safety. we were one of the first retailers to shut down our stores. So we also shut down our office. And then what we did is we said, okay, what are the other problems that we're going to face? And, it was going to be excess inventory. It was going to be production problems. So we tried to tackle all of that. The other thing too is not only was it about, just the business part, it was about really the people. And so what we did is Ian and I went without our salaries. And then because we don't think that there's one part of our business that's more important than the other, we kept all full-time employees on, and everybody took a pay cut for a few months because we were too big for some of the stimulus and too small for others. So we kind of fell on this weird thing. And then we also talked to all of our partners, whether it was our banks, whether it was our landlords, whether it was our vendors. And we just we've tried to really do this, be as compassionate and good partners to everybody that we could. So kind of taking the soul of the brand and reverting it back to Ian's and my personal values and leading with them rather than how a traditional business would be run.
What assumptions were you making about how long this was going to last when you were taking those early steps? Did you have a planning horizon? Did you think, okay, we need to hold out until X?
I think it was interesting. We had some people sort of helping us with the forecast, and it was one of the things that Shep and I particularly pushed, that we thought that this was going to be around for a while. And some of the people who were helping us were starting to plan fourth quarter, saying, I think by then we're going to, everything's going to be sort of back to normal or getting close to normal. And so we sort of had a more maybe realistic outlook on some of the challenges that might be ahead. And we're encouraging our team to adopt those things, whether it was, how brick and mortar is going to be affected, inventory management, those types of things. So we had a pretty long time horizon, and that this is going to be a long problem. I'm sort of, just as we're talking, looking at the Q&A, some of the questions that are popping up, and they're sort of related to this. As a result of it, one of the things, that, Shep particularly has been really a big proponent for a long time, and all these things have been accelerated by COVID, is the ease of transaction for our customer. That whether it's a physical environment where people want to get in and they want to find their size, or they want to be able to pay without touching anything, they want to be able to walk into a store without touching a doorknob, to, if you're on our e-commerce site, if we're fortunate enough to have earned your trust and your time, that you're going to spend it with us, we want to make sure that if you're on our site, it is really easy to buy something. And that you don't have to put in your information in multiple places, that we can deliver our content really quickly. And that if we are going to send you something, it's something worthwhile. And as often as we can, it's something shareable, something that's worth, talking about at the dinner table with your family. And that goes for all of our social channels as well.
So given how long things have gone on, was there something you would have done differently then that would have prepared you? No.
I mean, I think, from a business standpoint, yeah, we probably should have done some different things, but I don't regret any of them. And I think, we learn, and I think there's been a lot of opportunities created. I was just looking at some of the questions. Some of the things that we're really, really proud of is we're one of the safest places. We were listed as one of the safest places to shop. Certainly there has been a shift, sort of like to work from home. And Ian and I have been in the office a few times, and we have a lot of safety protocols. But the reality is this pandemic has created a lot of opportunities to rethink everything. And, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, I think the people that are really, really losing out a lot are the college students, because their college experience is anything but normal right now. And I think what we've tried to do is just try to be really, really understanding. And, there's not a one size fits all, because there's a lot of people that have full-time jobs that are, homeschooling their kids. There are a lot of people that live by themselves. And so I think we've just tried to be as compassionate. We've tried to lead with compassion, and we're hopeful this is behind us. And certainly this isn't good for any sort of balance sheet in the apparel space. But we've gotten better as a result. And, Ian and I are entrepreneurs. And so I think that entrepreneurial mindset hopefully has helped us through this time.
Before following up on that, I want to just pick up on one quick question there. Does the whale have a name?
I don't know. A few more cheeseburgers, it could be named Shep, I think.
Hey, you could run a contest on that, name the whale. I want to come back to a couple of things you just said. Well, one, early on in the pandemic, I know there was a lot of discussion about supply chains. In fact, one of our faculty members here studies the resilience and disruption in supply chains under disasters and situations like this. Have you had to adjust your supply chains? Was that something you had to really dig into?
Do you want to take that, Ian, or should I?
Go. I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead.
This is what happens when you have people split responsibilities. Trying to be too polite. Well, we'll answer two different ways. I'll go into one thing in terms of like upcoming supply chain issue it's all over the news now about shipping. We're internally discussing how we're going to deal with it, but UPS and FedEx and they're all going to be charging surcharges, and they're also indicating that a lot of packages just won't be able to be delivered. Just the sheer volume this holiday season is way beyond what they expected or had ever been prepared to do. So you'll see that a lot of businesses already, whether it's the big ones like Walmart and Target and Amazon, are pulling all their sales and their promotions forward to try and take the strain off of late November, first couple of weeks of December shipping. And so we're looking at that stuff too in terms of supply chain, really to the customer, making sure that the customer is able to get what they need, whether it's us getting it to their house or actually getting stuff from our DC, our distribution center, into our stores. But maybe Shep, you can tackle. First of all, we have a lot of people who help us with all this stuff. This is just, we're just mouthpieces, but in terms of the supply chain from our factories as well, equal level of complication.
I think there's just been a lot of challenges, but I think we're all just trying to do the best that we can. And then also during this time, especially when we're faced with trying to do the right thing for everybody, is maximizing efficiency. And so some of the things that we have done is really worked on cutting down our production calendar timelines by about 30%. And that's like kind of like from design inception to going into a store. So we've been able to cut it down by, I think, 16 weeks, something like that. And then, so that's been a huge win. And, what Ian was saying is like, by the way, if anyone doesn't believe the news, and there's a lot of news that you shouldn't believe probably, you should buy your holiday gifts sooner than later. A, because there's probably going to be a supply problem, and B, they may not be able to get to you. It's real. And all of this, like we were saying about the timeline, it takes a long time, about a full year to design and whatever clothes. And we're now coming up on a year of, with COVID. And so all of those interruptions that the disease has created will be catching up sort of fourth and first quarter.
Wow. So you mentioned a second ago that this gives you an opportunity to rethink everything. And can you give some examples? What have you been rethinking about the brand, the company, consumer expectations, consumer behavior? There's some questions around that. What do you think will be lasting? What do you think is fleeting in terms of consumer changes? Any thoughts around that?
I mean, for our business immediately, the first thing that we did, and I think a lot of people did, was transitioned into a somewhat of a survival mode. And by that, I mean really focusing on the things that drive the customer experience and are core to the brand. And anything that did not fall into that scope, we immediately started to not put attention to and not put resources towards. So we took a deep dive in looking at all of our marketing effort and our spend and places where we saw that they were really more fun or passion plays, but didn't necessarily drive results. Some of those things we backed off of in an effort to add more attention and resources to the things that drove the business and the customer experience. And like Shep said, one of those things that for us was, a huge commitment to our team to make sure that we could keep our team on. So we did forego some other things to make sure that we could keep them in line. There have been a number of things, and Shep, chime in, help me here, but we adjusted our catalog. We stopped doing a catalog for the summer, which is the first time in 20 years that we haven't done. We have a new one coming out. It should be hitting homes within a couple weeks, which we're excited about. We definitely went through and looked at our orders that were, coming in and tried to reduce those. So we did a bunch of cost cutting measures, and then we invested heavily in other areas, like our e-commerce business, that we saw, tremendous traction in it. And we also, it was important to keep the customer's attention. So we've been doing a lot of small capsule deliveries where we do custom t-shirts and quarter zips and things that are sort of relevant to what's happening today. And also really upped our social media presence, having lots more short videos, competitions, tag a friend, enter to wins, those types of things to give people something to do and reason to keep having a dialogue with the brand when they were not physically coming into our stores. It was really important to us, and still is, that we become a daily part and a daily stop in people's lives.
I think our opportunity, what we always have been doing for the past however long, is we need to anticipate what our customer is going to want a year from now. That's how we've always built our business. And because of such a monumental shift, sort of work from home, people don't want ties and formal wear. They want stuff that's comfortable. So it's, kind of rebalancing our merchandising mix. And then also, how are we reaching people? If they're not going into stores as much, what are some ways to, surprise and delight our customers? How do we get people, to see what our clothes looks like, feel, touch, and whatever? How do we, deliver a message? So it's, having our team has been really, really awesome, because they've pivoted a lot. As Ian said, we went into survival mode, but we've also gone into entrepreneurial mode, and we've also shifted to anticipate the needs of our customer, because that's the only reason we're in business, is because we have great customers. So our only real thing that we need to do is figure out what our customer wants and run towards that, so that we can provide that. And do it in a safe and fun way.
I think that's a really important point. I think that's why we want to emphasize here at the Robbins School entrepreneurship, because every business has had to be entrepreneurial. We've all had to shift, even here at the university. We've had to be more of a startup, thinking about the way we deliver our experience for our students. So somebody brought up, you talk about being innovative. Somebody asked about the Target partnership, and that came up with our students. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because they said, can you please do it again? So they're curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, just to set the level, the Target, maybe once a year does a collaboration. They call it a limited time offering, where it's just a few weeks, where they take a brand and they do collaborative products together. So 2 years ago, was it 2 years? About almost 2 years ago, right, Shep?
Year and a half, yeah.
In the spring, we did a launch with them where there was some apparel, home goods, pet, beach accessories, tabletop. And it really showed the power of our brand, that we could go into these new categories, which is something that we really believed that we could do, but we hadn't tested it really at a full scale. We learned an incredible amount from Target. They're one of the, just an incredible operation with awesome talent. And incredible buying power. And so with their help, we were able to launch nationwide for just a couple of weeks and really increase access to our brand to people who maybe didn't physically get, we didn't have a store in their area, or our price points weren't attainable to them for whatever reason. And it was really eye-opening to us to see how our brand resonated with so many people, and just prove the opportunity that lies ahead of us still, 20 some odd years later, that there's so much untapped stuff. And, I think for Shep and I and our team, it was just really fun to learn. We learned so much from them. We learned, how to be a better organization. And we also learned about how big the opportunity is.
How data-driven are these decisions getting made now? We launched a business analytics concentration, which is a secondary concentration to a primary functional area that students might settle into. So it seems like when you do something like the Target partnership, it's, as you said, it's a learning opportunity. So how important have analytics been to the growth of your business and your ability to understand the customer?
So I think, certainly data is a great way to drive business. And, certainly with our digital e-commerce and our marketing and stuff, that's great data. And then we can also look at sales data and everything. But I think one of the things that has which is nice about a founder-led organization, in addition to data, that can help support things. But also there's stuff that's intangible with a culture. There's stuff that may not make business or financial sense to do. And that's what I think we've really leaned into during this time. And, I think that has been an important part of our learning during COVID. There's been a lot of things that we've done that data would say that we're idiots, but there has been a lot of things that we've learned from all the information out there that have helped us, especially in our digital play, to make us a much better company.
A little bit more personal of a question. I see here from the Q&A that there's a couple of twin boys that are going to be working their way over to the Robbins School, sophomores. So I look forward to meeting them, Dan, who's the parent person to ask the question. They're asking about, apparently these two twin boys are going to start businesses together, which I look forward to helping them do that. How has it been working together, working with your, and this came up with the students earlier. How do you manage that relationship, business and being brothers?
Ian, I think Ian answered it last time, but basically at the end of the day, we're brothers first and foremost, and the things that we fight about are not about business. When we have differences of opinions in business, usually something good comes out of it, but it's usually like brotherly stuff that we fight about. And the other thing too is that we're passionate about different things within the business. So we've learned after all these years that only one person can drive a car or a company. And so we know each other well enough to say, all right, he's on some sort of, kick, let him roll with it. And then we can circle back later or whatever. And I think that that's how we've done it.
It's like giving each other space to do what you want to do, which relates to another question that was just asked, which I thought was a good one, is, who were your initial employees? How did you choose them? Was there prior trust between you? Like, how did you grow the business from a people perspective?
The early employees were sort of people who were just in our life, who were friends who we needed a favor. One guy we hired because he had a pickup truck and we needed to make deliveries, and he was around. He was playing guitar with me. He's from town. And another is who happens to be our president now, was a friend from college who we knew he was unhappy in his job and asked if he would move up for a while and just help us answer the phones and do things.
He came up when I was on my honeymoon.
Yeah. And, he never had a job description. And essentially still today, he does all the things we don't want to do. He's sort of the guy who does all the unglamorous stuff. And so there was a big growth period of that where you just, we talked about this earlier, where businesses have these different stages, and sometimes you just need the seats filled because the phone is ringing and there needs to be a warm body to answer it. There needs to be somebody to put the tape on the box and somebody to be able to drive out to a manufacturer and pick up some supplies. But then as you start to catch your breath, you start to realize that you really need people who are fit for their roles. So you get into personal development, you start to see an assessment of talent, who's got it, who doesn't, and are they not in the right role? If they're not, let's get them into a role where they can be successful. And if we can't do that, then we need to bring in some leadership that can help grow the team. It's always been a goal to have our organization be a place where people come and they stay, because there's opportunity to grow within. We don't want to become a place where people come, they work for a year or two to get some experience and they go start something else. I mean, we're happy for people to chase their dreams, but we really think that there's so much opportunity within our brand that if we can show people a path to success that is fulfilling for them, we can keep them for a long time. And as a result, we have a lot of people who've been with us for a long, long time.
What do you look for when you're hiring? What is your kind of ideal characteristics? Because that helps build the culture too, so that can get us into a question about how would you describe the culture at Vineyard Vines?
I think one of the things that Ian and I do really, really well is surround ourselves with great people. And I think, if we have plenty of faults, but, I think we think that personality and passion sometimes trumps all of the other things. That's just because that's how we built our brand. And I think there are a lot of people on our team that really need skill sets. And I don't think that we're equipped to answer we interview most of the people that end up coming to the office. But I don't think we're equipped to ask the questions to know if they can do the job. We can just pass the kind of personality litmus test, say, you know what, we like this person. And so we leave it to our senior team to make sure that the skill sets that we need are there. But to also have the people that understand our brand and embrace our culture and our mindset is really, really important. So we try and be pretty selective in making sure they have both the personality and the skill set.
So when you think about extending the brand, another question that came around is when you look about growth, and I think in our conversation with the students earlier, you talked about going beyond apparel, and there were some other things at Target that you had some products. They ask, how do you strike the balance between staying true to the brand's core identity versus the idea of embracing change or extending the brand? How do you make sure the brand retains its essence?
Well, one of the things that a lot of great brands do is you have to have that pinnacle product that maybe isn't the stuff that you sell a lot of, but it holds that brand equity very high. So for us, it's really important that we maintain quite a good assortment of really aspirational, higher price point product, so that no matter what, even if they're entering our brand at a t-shirt or a pair of socks or baseball cap, they know that it represents something that is like something to aspire to. And, we've had times where we've been floated a little bit where we haven't always gotten our assortment right, but making sure that you look at some great brands that have come before us or that have come after us, maybe a older business to model after would be Polo, where they had the mansion in New York and they had this super expensive product, but you could also buy their stuff at TJ Maxx and Macy's. Or you look at maybe a more relevant brand to some of the listeners or people watching today, like Yeti, where you have a $500 cooler, which they don't sell nearly as many of as they do baseball hats and bumper stickers. So having that something that you aspire to, and the brand, you could wear the badge of the brand that represents that.
But it's interesting, you pointed out earlier, and you don't see people, it's like our students putting Polo stickers on their laptops or in their cars, but you see a lot of these stickers around. Somebody asked, and this is something that didn't come up earlier, what was your biggest business failure and most important thing you learned from it? Would you do anything differently looking back? I think it's always, you know, we get the impression when we talk to somebody like you all that started this brand, it was successful, it's iconic, and we forget that there's a lot of fits and starts to things, and it's hard to remember that there are failures that come along the way. What would you say was the biggest failure?
There's been so many.
Yeah, I think people that fear failure, you know, you just gotta, I think what we learn from failure is, I think we've been pretty good about learning from failure rather than dwelling on it. And, you know, I think we've made a lot of, you know, huge mistakes. I think one of the things that we found ourselves a couple years ago was that everything was like sort of $99 in our store or below, where it used to be a lot of stuff. You know, we had a lot of, you know, sort of $200 sweaters or $400 jackets or whatever. And so we got to sort of one dimensional. And so, you know, to Ian's point, I think one of the, and, you know, we, having that sort of good, better, best merchandising mix and strategy is really, really important. And, you know, there could be a you know, a $30 baseball hat or a $2 sticker. And then, you know, better could be something over $100, and then best could be something over that. And so I think that that was our biggest miss in the last few years, that we didn't diversify as much as we needed to in our assortment. But it's an easy opportunity for us all to run to.
I also think a learning is almost every time we try something new, whatever that is, if it's a new product, a new store, a new marketing, new anything, we don't get it right. You know, and we, over the, you know, number of years we've done this, we realized that if we don't get it right the first time, or it doesn't work the first time, that doesn't mean that it's a flawed idea. It just means that there's opportunity to do it more efficiently, do it better, make it fit, whatever it is. It just, it's normal to not succeed the first time you do something. And we got, you know, even our first ties, they were pretty good, but they got better over time. That, you know, it's a long game. It's, you know, there's a lot of highs and lows along the way, but if you stay consistent and you build upon your mistakes, there's a lot of success to be had.
Some people are asking about marketing, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but this is another question that came before from during the registration process. What are your most successful marketing channels? Have you shifted that over time? And what advice can you give businesses as they're trying to shift their, you mentioned the engagement with the customer, and you've had to shift into keeping them more engaged because they're not coming to the stores, they're not out and about. What advice can you give on the marketing end of things?
I think the easiest thing is, like, we have to stand for, our customer needs to know what we stand for. And when we stand for too many things, we don't stand for anything. And so I think really making it clear for our customer to understand what we believe in. You know, like, so when you walk into a store and we have, you know, a pair of pants in 12 colors, hopefully the customer is going to say, you know what, they like those pants a lot because they must be good because they have them in 12 colors, rather than the one-offs. And I think what we've done a better job of, and you know, in marketing, is making sure that we are, you know, it's the 80-20 rule. 80% of our business is done by 20% of our SKUs. And, you know, it's really making sure that we stand for those, and making sure that the 20%, you know, we also market, but do it in a brand elevating or an interesting way, so that it's something good for the customer.
Excellent. So some questions around, I think you hit this a little bit earlier, around, and so you're saying you're anticipating what the customer is going to want a year from now. You mentioned fewer ties, comfort. What else are you anticipating? What are you planning horizon? What are you thinking for 21, maybe even 22?
You know, I think it's, you know, building on what Shep was saying with the marketing, customers really want to know what you stand for. They want to know what you stand for a product, but they want to know what you stand for as an organization, what your beliefs are, what's important to you. Social causes have become really polarizing. And, you know, we obviously want to be a brand that is, you know, beloved, that people want to come to us, that they feel great, that it's a place where families, all families can come and celebrate, you know, the everyday should feel those good moments in their life. And that's our position, that we want it to be a place where people just feel great, super welcoming, fun and exciting with great energy. And so as we go into the new year, one of the things that we need to really lean back on is how we've made the customers a part of our journey the entire way. Before all the social stuff, our catalogs were just littered with our customers sending in pictures of their great moments, their graduations, weddings, parties, whatever it was, their vacations, and really celebrating the customer and how Vineyard Vines authentically fits into their life. And that's something, as we move forward, people sharing their stories of quarantining, what hobbies they've learned this year, what clothes work, you know, what do you wear for your Zoom call? What are the kids wearing at school? How are you balancing homeschool? How are you balancing, college kids, not going out in groups, sneaking, whatever it is, sharing those stories, because we all have, Shep will say, sharing our scars. This is a time where people have been sort of hurting. And if you can share them together and create this sense of community, we're all going to get stronger and support each other. So those are the things that we're leaning into as a brand, and giving back to those that are really the heroes through this whole time.
Somebody asked on the Q&A, are you making masks?
We are. They went on sale yesterday.
Oh, excellent. And at the end, we have a little surprise for the audience to get a little bit of a discount. So maybe they'll be able to hit on some of those. We have a lot of students in the audience, so I want to make sure that we hit on what your thoughts are, given where you've come from and what your challenges are in running a business like Vineyard Vines. What advice would you give our students in terms of what they should be necessarily studying, but what should they be getting out of their college experience? How should they be preparing for the world, and how to be more entrepreneurial as you?
I think one of the, I just want to add to one thing Ian said. We tell our team, and I don't know where this thing came from, this quote, but it says, tough times don't last, but tough teams do. Mm. And I think that resonates for a lot of people during this time. But I think no matter what people set out to do, they have to go do something that they love. And they can't do it for, just money or for a ulterior motive. They have to be inspired by waking up every day and going and doing something that they feel good about. And I think there's a lot of things that happen at college, aside from gaining independence from your parents and being able to live on your own, and also, sort of hopefully have a culturally, socially, and academically great time. It's a great time to network. And, the world is a very, very small place when you're around people like, there's a lot of opportunities at University of Richmond that we saw, and there's a lot of bright minds. And it's like, how can people connect with each other and do even better things? And certainly, the idea of financial literacy, the idea of leaving college and being able to make a living is, in my mind, a really, really important thing. But the most important thing is make a living doing what you love. And it can't be about the wallet. It's got to come from the heart. And so that would be the advice that I would give to all the students. And know that there's so many resources. I still am in touch with my college professors all these years later, and our high school teachers and everything, and our friends, parents, and whatever. Networking is a huge, huge opportunity. And everybody likes to help other people. So those would be some sort of themes, I would say.
Ian, anything to add to that?
I mean, you guys are super fortunate to be at such a great school. I think one thing that you'll take with you is you'll always be alumni of Richmond, which is an incredible thing to have the rest of your life. Wherever you go, you're going to meet somebody who is also an alumni. You're going to have an instant bond. And, I know I had that at my college, and you guys will have, that and then some at Richmond, which is really exceptional. And really kudos to you. Shep and I have been really impressed with the students we've met, the ideas that you guys have. We have learned so much more from you guys than, it's possible you guys learned from us. And even just look at the participants. We're an hour into this, and, we've only lost 12 people. It's, you guys are really dedicated to what you're doing. And we feel, I, for one, I'm just an uncle of a student. I feel very lucky to be included in the community. So I want to say thank you.
Yeah, and just full disclosure, Shep is all in the University of Richmond. He's sent his son here, so he's got a sophomore here. So we're very excited about that. No, I like to think we just had a discussion around sort of the essence of the Robbins School and UVR, and I think our kids have ambition with purpose. We want to help unleash that, which I think is really exciting. Last question, and then we'll put up this slide. What are you most excited about right now? What are you working on that excites you, that gets you up in the morning?
I think there's so much opportunity. I don't even know where I would start. I think I'm excited for, and I think just like everybody else, listen, in an hour, we're going to see the debate, which is certainly probably not going to be as civil as this conversation, although I hope it is. I'm
muting you now. Yeah, we already have the mute feature.
And I tried not to interrupt you too much either. So,
but I think what we're excited for is that we've always been opportunistic. And so I think what we're doing is we're running towards the opportunities that have presented itself and try and understand what the new normal is. Like, are people going to be going into office buildings that are 100 stories tall? What does work from home look like? What does it look like a year from now? Hopefully, the pandemic is behind us, but hopefully there's going to be a lot of great things that are going to come as a result of this. Certainly, a lot of people have made a lot of sacrifices. And I think historically, when people make sacrifices in life, something good happens. And I think we're all waiting for that right now. And I think when we figure out what that is, we're going to hopefully be there to be part of their everyday should feel this good life. That's what I'm most excited about.
Excellent. Ian, thoughts?
I think this is a time of insane curiosity when people have no idea what's going to be next, and people are trying to prepare for anything. And as entrepreneurs, we're lifelong learners, and we just want to see what's going to be next and be prepared for it and learn. And I'll leave you on one last closing thing. I have young children who are avid readers, and my middle guy, who is 8, says, tonight's the Dibbit, Dad. Are you going to watch the Dibbit? Can you tape the Dibbit so I can watch the Dibbit? And that got me thinking, he pronounces a lot of words wrong, but he pronounces them wrong because he reads them. He doesn't hear somebody else saying them. And it sort of was like a little bit of a proud moment because, he was out there doing it. And so the reason I say it is sort of encouraged me to go out there and push me to do things and that I'm not comfortable or don't even know about. I think that the brands that can do that in this time, we didn't really touch on it too much, but we did a lot of interesting things to support frontline heroes and healthcare workers and first responders, and sort of unconventional. We hosted some Zoom things that they were very unconventional and sort of put ourselves out there, and they were more work than maybe we were used to doing, and they were new, but they turned out to be successful. More than anything, they felt great. And so I think there's going to be a lot of that coming down the pike in the year to come.
Great. Thank you for mentioning that. I noticed somebody had asked about that. Let me put this back up here. So Shep and Ian have been generous enough. We have a special code here. You can get 40% off. Somebody asked whether you're going to have any more spider wear. I know that you got the spider ties that are Vineyard Vines.
The bookstore. We'll follow up.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much. You guys have been really, really generous with your time, and I think our students earlier benefited, and I know that the audience tonight benefited greatly from your insights and your experience. I want to thank all of you who showed up tonight. Thank you for tuning in to our Executive Speaker Series. Make sure to check out our Facebook and Instagram page. We put stories in there all the time about what our students are up to, what our faculty and staff are doing, what the University of Richmond and the Robbins School stand for, and what impact we're having in the world. So please follow that. Our next Robbins Executive Speaker Series will be Mark Lopez on November 18th. He's a Director of Global Migration and Demography Research at the Pew Research Center. Mark, if you want to just get a preview of that, just follow the Pew Research Center's Instagram page, Instagram feed. They have just phenomenal insights, and Mark will be sharing those with us on November 18th. So thank you for that. Hope to see you soon. Thanks a lot, everybody. Please stay safe and go Spiders. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Good night.